for it. It's Whoa. Hello, this is Mike Naylor with another interview for Secret Records, and my guest is the brilliant Carmel McCourt from the jazz soul band Carmel. Formed as a trio in the early 1980s, their debut album, The Drum Is Everything, was a top 20 hit, as were the singles More, and Bad Day. Carmel released 5 other studio albums in the 80s and 90s, plus compilation and live sets, and in 2011, a collection of songs by the French legend Edith Piaf. But Carmel is about to release a brand new album, Wild Country, her first in 10 years. And I'm delighted she's here to talk about it. Hiya, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, I'm on a little high here, so all good here. Yeah.
So what have you been doing sort of professionally, work-wise, in the last 10 years, Carmel?
I've done concerts and I've been writing, because that's my default is to write. If I'm not doing much on stages, I'll be at that keyboard behind this, doing the jazz piano course that I'm on. So I'm sort of pushing myself in that direction for the future. So it's really great to do. But at the minute, I've done sort of things like productions in the community and working with guys. Perhaps the theatres have employed me to go out and work with guys off the streets and do projects like that, and writing projects where they learn to write from scratch, and then they go into the studio and then they learn to sing from scratch, and they create a CD, the old-fashioned CD.
Excellent. I love it. So you've kept yourself in trim, as you say, maybe writing, performing, keeping the voice going, which is essential.
I do. I belong to a ladies' choir. It's essential to keep, don't use it, lose it. That's the phrase, isn't it? So I've done lots and lots of these sort of semi-classical religious choir sort of productions, and we the lady who runs the choir, she knows where I've come from, she knows the kind of volumes I've worked with, but she, for me it's great for me to go into her world of voice and learn to really develop that area that has been ignored largely by me. So it's just beautiful to be part of a choir when you're doing pieces that are so incredible. It's a privilege really for us all to sing together. Yeah, it's great.
Well, your versatility comes through on this brand new album, Wild Country, because again, it's a mixture of sort of jazz and soul and blues and ballads. And I got to say, I can't really take it off my CD in the car when I'm driving. I've been listening to it sort of back to back over the last week or two, and every listen, it gets better. So what was the starting point to writing the songs and getting a band together? Was it, I guess?
Well, I was the starting point was actually gigs. I was doing when I do gigs, I go to Belgium, Germany, maybe Switzerland, but definitely Belgium is my stable. So I started there, and I sort of warmed up always with English gigs to be good in Belgium, and they've always been I've worked in France, and that was a great place for me. A great acceptance was had there. However, it's Belgium that was really my little home. So I go there and I perform, and new ideas, whatever. And very rarely, I don't really need a product out to do this. Now and again, I might put out, write a few things, have something that they could perhaps pick up at a gig. But it was coming back from one of these gigs with John Ellis on keyboards and some great musicians that he placed around me. And he said he'd like to produce an album, and perhaps we could do some of the things we toured that would be done, like The Waterfall was an old piece, and then some new things. And I'm always a devil for wanting to do new things. I fight it all the way, but I got as much new stuff on as I could.
Yeah.
So
there are 3 songs that you've done before, which you mentioned, The Waterfall, there's Talk, and the sort of title track, Wild Country, and that opens the album. It's was a co-write with one of the originals of Carmel, Jerry Darby. It's very atmospheric. It starts with you sort of walking by the sea, and then your voice is multi-tracked, and then I think it's got a real sort of it's a fusion of sounds, Eastern sounding, as though you've been influenced by Indian music.
I think John Ellis has brought to this really his love of folk music. So he's using instruments that are really folk instruments, and he's a bit of Manchester's secret here. He's a well-kept secret, and he does so many productions from his house studio in Manchester, and he's just amazing. And so a lot of those instruments are really ethnic sort of folk instruments, and so you'd have to talk to him about all that, because he just keeps adding and adding layers. This is one track that wasn't perhaps live, and often these things are great live if you can get those grooves going. But this was such an old piece for me, but when it was recorded and ready for release early 90s, it was the wrong time to release that, because we can talk about these things now, the problem with the troubles in Ireland, and but at the time I couldn't release the version in the 90s because the peace initiative was in its infancy really, and it was the wrong time, that's all. And now you've got the Northern Ireland Protocol. We could support it, but we all know we don't want to go back there. So we can actually talk about these things now. And it's based on a book by Robert McLean Wilson called Ripley Bogle. And I've added in a town that is not in the book. So I've added in artistic license, Salters Town, because that's my father's, where he's from. And he used to swim there, and we all used to swim there when we went over to Ireland. So it's a favourite place of ours, really. So I gave it a little touristic boost. I hope they don't mind, you know.
Well, it is terrific, and we can't perhaps go through all 11 songs, but I wanted to pick out a couple. And September Sun, again, this builds really, really well. And I think you co-wrote this with Jim Paris. Lovely piano and organ on it, and you talk about a mixed up world. And I like the vocal on it, Salford Skies, but originally you wrote Scunthorpe Skies, and you were persuaded to change that by a songwriter and singer who sadly is no longer with us.
Oh yeah, it was very, very much so. Colin Veercombe from Black, and we were sitting and chatting, and he did try singing September Sun over Scunthorpe Skies, where I'm from. I'm from a village near Scunthorpe in Lincolnshire, and he said, no, you can't sing it like that. And so I said, try Salford. So he tried Salford, and he said, yes, that'll work. So it was a slow grower, that song, because like some are, you know, they take sometimes years and years and years, and some songs take 10 minutes or so. So, you know, yeah, it was a slow grow.
Oh, well, it's worth it. It's absolutely stunning. Second Wife Blues.
Okay.
Something you know, or blokes that I'm not sure about having remarried or something like that.
You know what? I've sung that in Germany quite a few times, and I have seen some of the wives digging the husband in the ribs, saying "you," because they talk about the first wife and the second wife. She doesn't want to hear about the first wife. You know, she's her. You're with her now. You're lucky. You know, so yeah, it's beware.
And the follow on from that song is You Walked Out. Is that you something that you experienced when your partner left?
It is. It's a terrible thing, breakups. And I went on to be a single mum, and I think it was a really hard time. And I think kids, you always think that they don't suffer, and you do your best, and they seem happy at school, but they are collateral damage. And so, you know, you've always got to try and repair all the time, and listen to them as adults, and see what's lasting of that, you know, because there is always going to be something. And it was very, very sad. Alain is a beautiful young Frenchman at the time, and it didn't work out with us too. And it was as hard for him as it was for me. And that's why at the end I say, you know, that the moon should look after him too, really. You know, just try, and it takes years, I think, for couples to, when they break up, to be friends again, you know. So there's always a bit sort of you know, I don't know if I'm very good at blaming other people for also my part in it all. So you know, I think we sort of just survived by going, it's his fault, and you know, just survive. And I think maybe we got a lot of looking at that to do as people, but you know, things do fall apart, and it's terribly sad when they do. And
it's a lovely song, though. I mean, we're making this album sound as though it's a bit depressing. I think it's a tremendous, you know, mixture of sounds and of melodies and uplifting. But you're being honest here, and it's very soulful. It's a really fantastic ballad. And
I think that John Ellis said it. He said because 2 jazz tracks were taken off and these 2 were put on in their place, and that's how it went with this album. But he said, "Oh yeah, you're the queen of the kitchen sink sort of song, Carmel, the kitchen sink drama." Oh, yeah.
Well,
all right then.
Song number 6, the one straight after you walked out, is called "Sad Situation," and that's about suicide, and it's actually about an actual situation, isn't it? Tell us to the background of this song and why you wanted to write it.
I thought the sad situation was of Mick Jagger and Lawrence Scott. Obviously, people move on. He moves on with his beautiful life. And but I thought it was a very sad situation, and I don't know her. I just felt very sad about it, and he'd just gone on a world tour, and he had to cancel it, and so it just stayed with me. And it's funny what inspires you, because it's such a sad story. And so when I was at an old piano I had in another place we were renting, I just kept trying to find that sort of Stonesy kind of groove. And I'm forever being a bad pianist, you know. No, really, I'm a writer, but not really a pianist. So I always hand it over to much better people to play. And that's why I'm doing my jazz studies now with piano, because finally maybe I could be quite good. But just to find something that was slightly indicative of a 60s Stonesy groove, and you've got a great guitarist on that track. Johnny Hayes is just superb on that, and. But it's just getting that groove together, and just passing that song through. It's hopefully it's not too depressing a song, but that's what inspired it. So
well, it's certainly got that Stones feel and that groove, but also, can I suggest, and this is a compliment really, it sort of sounded similar to me in the field to Carole King's "It's Too Late."
Oh, wow.
You know, which is a nice comparison. Next song we can talk about, we're talking Carmel McCourt from Carmel and her album Wild Country, coming out at the end of February. It really is lovely. And well, you don't get many songs about Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, the taxman, do you? Or taxwoman, called Forget the Bills, a soulful ballad. Yeah, that's not easy to do at this particular juncture in our history, our social history, with inflation, but it's another good song.
It's a hard, isn't it? It's you know, I just think it's really hard times, and when you're broke, you're broke. When you've got to pay a tax bill, if your guy can't or is worried or whatever. I just think it's so nice to sort of, you know what? It's a very hard thing, and we do face hard times, as you said, we do, and sometimes the only way you can support each other is by being together, really, and it's not going to go away in a hurry. So. It's just finding, you know, maybe that night, just forget the bills for tonight. Just let's not stress tonight.
Couple of covers on here, because you've done covers throughout, I guess, your career. And one is Misty, written by the pianist Errol Garner, that became the signature song for Johnny Mathis. And then the last track on the album, Love Me or Leave Me, was written in 1928, I think, by Gus Kahn originally and Walter Donaldson. And it was covered by Bing Crosby, Sammy Davis Jr., Lena Horne, and of course, perhaps made most famous by Doris Day.
Ooh, I love Doris Day.
Yeah. So do you think you got better as a songwriter and a singer at Carmel?
It's a process, isn't it? You're a musician. You're going to keep that's the thing you do. I was doing it quite young, So I think it's where my mind goes to. These days, if I get an idea for a song, I keep shifting it out, going, no, I've stopped doing that now, I'm not doing that anymore. So I've tried to, no, I just try and stop it, because it's such a hard industry to be in the music industry. And I'm thinking, this is the last written album I'm not doing anymore, so that's it. And I keep sort of like throwing these things to one side, and then an idea comes, and that's the trouble. If you get, that's the trouble with me, is I get all these ideas. And you know, yeah, it's an awkward life being a musician, because it always means going away, it always means traveling away, it's always very hard on families and kids. So I tried very much to stay at home as a mum as much as I possibly could.
But with these new songs, they're generally collaborative in terms of co-writes, and yeah. The band is amazing. And as you say, the producer John Ellis is a wonderful multi-instrumentalist. You've got Christian Van Fields on the keyboards and Simon Moore on the drums, and lots of other musicians as well. When you've kind of written the melody and written the words, and you think you've got the basis of the song, would you demo it and then everybody chips in? Because the arrangements on this and the playing on this is what's brought them to life, I imagine. But I'm wondering whether you have the final say, or whether, again, you share all of that collectively.
Yeah, it's probably the best time is when you're in the rehearsal room together, and you're getting it ready. Maybe I'll come in with a piece, and I say, I've got this piece, and sometimes I work with sometimes this backing singer called Danny Daniels, who now and again sings, but he sometimes sings on stage, but not very often. And just you might find that certain people are good to work with, try things out with. You've written something and try it out with them. As you said, Christian Van Fields, a wonderful guy at pushing an arrangement. He pushed Second Wife Blues. I came in the room. I had this rather sad piece, and he goes, "All right, give it here." And he's just doing something really, really fast. And I go, no, I wrote that very slowly. And it is in 6, and he's going, yeah, it's fine. No, this is how it should be. And he goes, and there's a moment when you know, as a writer, you could go with that or not. And if you see that inspiration from someone else, you go, you know what, we're going to have to go with this. This is good. This is good. This now it's got legs. Otherwise, there'll always just be things I'm scratching around at the keyboard, or things that stay on my phone that I've recorded myself doing at the keyboard. Well, you have to collaborate.
Yeah, but I mean, so good that you have, because this is, well, I was going to say polished, but you know, but it's still got that feel and that vibe that you will have when you play the songs live, or when you have in the past played them live. It just feels complete. Did you all feel at the end of it, when it had been mixed, that was what you can't improve on this, really? I think half the personnel left when the live recordings were done, because there's some live ones, and then I went on to work with John through the lockdown when we could. A bit of a difficult time, because you know, depression hits musicians when they can't work, and it was done despite the lockdown, really. And I think everyone's kind of okay. Would come in and listen to mixes, and were welcome to come in and listen to mixes and drop in and do that. And yeah, it's so sad. So a couple of tracks were left off, because there was a great saxophonist I was working with, Ed Kaniak, but he's on one of them still. But yeah, the Tom Dibb on guitar on some of these is beautiful, beautiful. And so yeah, Gaston Johnson knew for us to work with him on bass. And I think when everyone's really grooving it and loving it, it has that sort of atmosphere in the studio. And it's just as long as I bring in food. And, are you, though, a bit nervous about its release, or not? You shouldn't be.
No, not at all. It's as Jerry Darby used to say in the past, it's you know, just go for it. Once it's done, it's done. There's nothing you can change. I mean, my son is managing some of the bits and pieces. He's listening to Wild Country, go, oh, I think you might have to change the vocal. I went, too late.
Well, you mentioned that, you know, you are very big in France and Germany and Belgium and Holland. Maybe more so their success than in the UK. Why should that be?
It's how it was. It's how it is. I think we're just incredibly grateful when we took off in France and we were able to still develop. I think, you know, musicians, it's a bit like poets. I don't think we're that great at the music industry. So you just go along with how it falls for you. And that's how it was meant to be, which is, in my heart of hearts, exactly what I wanted, because in the early record company I was with, London Records, I was secretly behind their backs with Jim and Jerry, and I was thinking, you know what, we think we should call it Operation PF, because I really want to work in France. We're all broke. We were just, you know, I'd love to work in France. Everyone's busy looking at America. They want to get over there and do this and do that. I was thinking, God, I just want to work in France. And actually, that's what happened. So you know, I kind of had an art school mentality about this. This is where I was from. I was quite relaxed about it. I always meant to be an indie band, because
really,
that's all I was meant to be. I was like the song called Storm. You know, that was my first song that went out as an indie artist. Oh, that's great, and I'll be that. That's fantastic. The freedom is there, you see, to do wherever and whatever you want to do. You can stretch to do what you want to do.
But do you see the massive success and profile of artists like Adele and Rihanna, Ariana Grande and Billie Eilish, Mabel and so on, and think that could be me?
No, I don't think it could be me, because I wouldn't be doing what I do, which is quite free and expressive. I don't think I could get away with singing lines that I do sing. I don't think I could get away with my lyrics that I want to say. So that poetry is kind of where that directs where I go, I think. And you know, this has always been the same, because you've had your great artists in the 70s, Rod Stewart, and, you know, massive artists, and they'll always be there. They're fabulous entertainers, and they're huge. Pressure, the amount of pressure on them is huge, isn't it? And all these great bands that have come from England, and as you say, the vainglorious Adele, it's sort of like these tremendous sort of weights that she must carry to do what she wants to do, and to continue to do what she wants to do, if she really wants to continue. And so it's like, that's another world of music business. My mentality of the music business is a little bit Irish, whereas the folk artists gracefully grow old with it, and they mature with it, and they're marvelous, and they can age. And I think that the same happens in American jazz artists. I love all that. I really love to see and respect Fleetwood Mac and the writers in it, the women in it who under the radar, they're just writing away, and just tremendously strong female writers. You go, whoa, and here they are in their beautiful grey hair and however they want to look, and I just think, how amazing are they? All of them, you know, they all look so sort of distinguished and marvelous. They're the big ones for me, and just keep doing it if you want to, but I don't have an ambition to I don't know, nudge Adele off any pedestal.
Well, are you going to then now go out on the road and play live the songs on Wild Country and other stuff from your, you know, lovely, brilliant back catalogue?
Oh, thank you. We've been asked to go and do some things, and obviously the first port of call for me would be Belgium, because that's my stable, and we're keen to do that, and we'd be happy to do that. Yeah. So that's one of the things we might do this in the forthcoming year.
Yeah. And we can go on talking forever, really, I guess, because you've had such an amazing, interesting, multifaceted career. Maybe that's why, you know, you've survived as well. As you say, you're teaching, you're learning new vocal styles, you're doing theatre and all the rest of it, and you're in Manchester still, back in Manchester, and there's a hub there of, you know, creativity, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. It's great. It's well alive, and it is powerful. The hip hop scene and whatever else is going on here is huge. It's the youth, the urban youth is. I've been to some of the talent nights and seen things, and I've been amazed by some of the young singers and some of the rap artists. Fabulous, really great scene for them, and very successful scene. And they've got their productions going on all the time. They're huge. They're huge sales on those. And then you've got your artists, and you've got your John Ellis, people like that, who just quietly going about their business. And you know, he's done Tom Jones, he's done Lily Allen. He did nobody sort of, he doesn't tell anyone, you know.
Okay, well, look, it's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you and to hear what you've had to say, as well as listen to this fabulous new album, Wild Country, by my guest Carmel McCourt. And Carmel and her band hopefully will be on the road before too long, because the quality of the melody, obviously we've talked about the lyrical content and the playing, it's all just a fantastic package. It really is. And I mean that. And it's so great to know that you're back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you.
All right.
Hey, just stay there. I'll turn that off a minute. Recording.